What's going on, Chemical Guys family? Thanks so much for tuning in for today's episode of Detail Garage, and I hope you all are doing well. Today we've got this beautiful Lexus RX 300 in the shop because it's a car that's been neglected and needs some love, and we thought today would be a good time just to go through the entire detailing process. Now we're going to go through it kind of fast, mostly doing time lapses, but if you guys want to learn more about all the steps, we have tons of videos on our channel showing you how to do it step by step. But for today, we're going to break down the entire detailing process, showing you that it can be done in less than 4 hours, doing the entire wash process, then moving on to the claying, as well as polishing and the protecting stages. Well, across the paint, there's a lot of scratches, there's swirls, there's pollen and bee poop, there's regular bird poop, and all kinds of staining. And the paint just lost a lot of that luster. So we're going to go over the wash process, then we're going to clay it, and then we're going to polish it to revive most of that shine, or at least make this car look a lot better than it does now. So without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty guys, so we just got finished foaming up this Lexus. You saw that we used the whole detailing process of starting with the dirtiest area, which is the wheels and the wheel wells, using some sticky citrus wheel gel, some Diablo, and some orange degreaser to remove any kind of grease or buildup that's inside of the wheel well, as well as the wheel itself. Then we foamed with the vehicle using Honeydew and some clean Slate. That removes anything that's on the surface without scratching it, while also removing any kind of old layers of glaze, sealant, or waxes. And now we've inspected the paintwork, and you can see it looks a little cloudy or it looks kind of dull, but it also feels really rough. And that's just years of embedded contaminants that are stuck on the pores of the paint. So we're going to be using a medium clay bar. I've already kneaded up a small piece into a patty. And we're also using our clay luber. And we're going to spray the surface of our bar as well as our hand and the surface that we're working on. And a clay bar is just intended to pull any kind of embedded contaminants out of the pores of the paint or the surface of your glass or chrome. Basically anything that's painted shiny, clear, or glossy. And then as you start off, it's going to feel kind of rough or it's going to sound a little rough. But as you pull contaminants out, it's going to get smoother, it's going to get quiet, and that's when you know when to move on. And then you can always take a clean microfiber towel, wipe off the excess, and check your work. But this is a necessary step, especially on a vehicle that's either been neglected or it hasn't been detailed in a while. Years of fallout will collect on the surface, and it gives it a really rough look and a rough feel. But this also will continue with the detailing process. Before we do any kind of polishing or applying any kind of coatings, we need to clay it, just because you can see there's a little bit of buildup on that clay bar. And that's just the grime that we pull out of the pores of the paint. The whole entire vehicle is coated in the same kind of filth, so we need to work our way around the vehicle before we get into any kind of polishing. So let's jump into the clay bar steps and then get this car looking its best. So our next step is going to be the polishing, where we're going to restore the gloss on this Lexus. As you just saw, we used that medium clay bar to remove the embedded contaminants that gave the paint a really rough look and also a rough feel. Now it's nice and smooth, and this is prepared for our polishing, where we're going to be using our Torque 15 DA. This is a dual action polisher, which is great for either honing your skills or maybe you're looking to do a detailing side business. This is a perfect machine to get you started. It has a 15mm throw, which means it covers a lot of surface area while still giving you the control of a 5-inch pad. We're also using our Orange Hex-Logic Pad, which is the perfect combination whether you're using a light cutting compound or a heavy polish. And for today, for the car that we're working on, which has a moderate amount of scratches and swirls as well as some light oxidation, we're going to be using our V36. This is a cutting polish, which has a micro abrasive that breaks down as you polish. And this refines that clear coat to restore a beautiful shine. So we're going to add 5 dime-sized dots to our Hex-Logic pad. And also some pad conditioner. This just helps to moisten the foam pad. It kind of helps to reduce any kind of dusting, but it also helps to reduce that friction. This will keep your pad from deteriorating, and it also adds some longevity. So we'll start by throwing the cord over our shoulder. And then what I like to do is I'll work from the center out. This way I'm not leaning across the surface that I just polished. We want to start by dabbing it out, and then on the lowest speed setting we're going to spread it out. And then using the highest speed setting, which will be speed setting 6 on this torque dual action, we're going to diminish the polish. There's a few things you want to keep in mind. Working in a 2-foot by 2-foot section, which is about the width of your shoulders. And also you want to make sure that the pad is completely flat at all times. This way you're actually doing a paint correction, you're not digging in or creating kind of holograms. You can watch the ventilation holes on the pad just to know that it's actually spinning. And also you want to make sure that you're moving consistently, about 1 inch per second. That's going to be your arm speed. This way again you're removing the same amount of clear coat or refining the same amount of paint at the same time. This way you get the uniform look. We're going to start by spreading it out, and then we're going to bump it up to the high speed setting, and we're going to do our polishing. V36 alone did an amazing job of removing most of those scratches and swirls, as well as that light layer of oxidation. We don't want to go with something more aggressive because the owner was telling me that the hood was repainted and it's probably a single stage paint job, so we don't want to keep removing layers of clear coat or layers of paint. So instead what we're going to do is move on to V38, where we're going to jewel the paint and really enhance the gloss. And we're going to repeat the same process around the rest of the vehicle, but luckily I've got my buddy Jason here to help me out because, as you see, this is an SUV or even a small SUV, and that takes a lot of time. But as we were mentioning, the whole purpose of today's video is to show you guys that it's possible to, from A to Z, detail your vehicle in less than a day. It just takes the right amount of product and the right technique. So again, we're going to be using our Torque 15 DA with a white Hex-Logic pad. And as I mentioned, we're going to be using V38, which is the final polish. And basically what this does is it removes any kind of tiger stripes or any kind of haze, while also enhancing the paintwork. We're going to use the same 5 dime-sized dots on our Hex-Logic pad. And a little bit of pad conditioner. And I've been asked before if it's necessary to use pad conditioner every time you apply dots to the pad, and the pad's going to start to absorb a lot of that moisture, so it's not necessary to use it every time, but at least for the first few applications. And also, whenever you move from panel to panel or from section to section, you want to reapply those same 5 dime-sized dots. This way you're consistently removing product, or you're consistently removing the amount of paintwork, because a dry pad with no compound or no polish on there doesn't do much good, so use the same amount on every 2 foot by 2 foot section. After polishing, we've exposed a fine layer of the clear coat. This is all fresh paint now, and we want to use something that's going to protect it and also enhance some of that shine, which is why we're using butter wet wax. Now you can apply this by machine or by hand, but since we have the Torque 15 out already, we're going to use a black Hex-Logic pad. This is just a soft finishing pad, and we're going to apply that same 5 dime-sized dots and use the lowest speed setting to cover as much surface as we can, because a little bit goes a long way, and you can spread this pretty fine. And you want to allow about 10 to 15 minutes for it to bond and cure to the surface, and then you can wipe off the excess. But there's no need to use a higher speed setting or to use any kind of polishing pad conditioner. You're just going to use the lowest speed setting and just spread it across the surface that you've just polished or just detailed, just to lock in all that shine, but also repel any kind of future damage. Alrighty guys, as our final step to wrap up the detail on this Lexus, we're going to be applying some of the exterior components that kind of help bring out some of the liveliness. So the tires, we've already cleaned them using our Signature Series Orange Degreaser as well as some Sticky Citrus Wheel Gel. Now they're nice and clean and dry, but you can see they look kind of dull. So what we're going to use is some VRP, which is a water-based dressing. This is going to enhance the look of any exterior or interior vinyl, rubber, and plastic. It helps to give it more of that deeper gloss while still remaining kind of neutral, more of like a matte finish. And what I like is it's a water-based, so it's not going to attract dust. It's also going to prevent any kind of sling because it's going to penetrate the tire. And with proper application, this will probably last you a few weeks, and you can always reapply as necessary. But I always recommend to clean the surface thoroughly and dry it before you apply any kind of dressing, because water-based or oil-based will stick better or adhere better to a clean surface. This way you get the most longevity out of your dressings, and also look better too, so you're not covering up any kind of brake grime or any kind of road debris. Just give you a natural look. And then you can just let that sit on there for a few moments and wipe off any of the excess. Or if you want it to have more of that glossier finish, you can always just leave it there and let it dry. And since we're working on this wheel, you can see that the wheel wells, we've cleaned those up as well using the orange degreaser, but they also look a little chalky, a little faded, so we're going to use some bare bones, which is again an undercarriage dressing that's going to enhance the look of any kind of undercarriage components, your wheel liners, suspension pieces, and it's simple product to use. Just simply spray it on. And then you can always just leave this, let it dry, or you can come back with a clean towel and wipe off any of the excess. But this is going to make it harder for road grime, or if you live in an area where it rains or snows a lot, it's going to make it really difficult for any kind of that road salt or any kind of grime to build up inside of there, because now it's created a barrier that makes it harder for things to stick to it, and it also makes it difficult for things like harsh elements to dry out and discolor the plastics, and it also gives it a really nice look. So guys, I know there's a lot of information covered in today's video, but if you want to go more in depth and learn more about this whole detailing process, we've got tons of videos on our channel that you guys can check out. If you want to learn more about these products, go to our website, chemicalguys.com, or your local detail garage, and we'll see you guys next time.